years, you may have noticed not only the normalization of things like anime and kawaii culture, but also a lot more mainstream accessibility to it, mostly during and after 2020's lockdown. Terms like Hello Kitty Girl hitting social media and becoming a permanent part of internet vernacular. And suddenly, thanks to short-form social media platforms, a lot of Japanese cuisine and pop culture was no longer seen as this niche nerdy thing by the wider Western market. In fact, you could argue that people began to become enamored with things that were so culturally different. Whether this be this new generation of women and teenagers who are falling in love with J-fashion, or just foods like onigiri and matcha becoming very in-demand items for local eateries. Although Hello Kitty and by extension Sanrio were always popular, it went from being something that was typically considered childish to enjoy past a certain age into being something that adults were allowed to enjoy and in fact were encouraged to enjoy through bag charms, pajama sets, bedding. Like, we've all seen those TK Maxx hunting videos in America where people are going insane over a Hello Kitty ceramic Halloween jar or Hello Kitty bedding, and they're like hiding it in every wicker basket and toilet they can find in the store. Like, people hiding all of these Hello Kitty items because it's so in demand. And as somebody who grew up with and had an interest in these things far before 2020, it really is such a stark difference between how it was treated when I was younger and how popular and favored it is now. Authentic anime figurines can now be found at HMV, Smith's Toy Store, and even Tesco. Japanese favorites such as sushi and katsu curry are now even more widely available outside of the really bad meal deal sushi that we've always had but has always been really not great. I mean, now we have Yo Sushi concessions in most big supermarkets. We have like Japanese food far more readily available that we can just heat up or take home. Hell, I feel every single independent and chain coffee store on earth now has its own take on matcha to varying degrees of success. Some of them ain't so great. Apparently Greg's, beloved Greg's, now does a matcha and it's actually okay. Some people said it wasn't very good because people weren't actually like properly mixing the powder, like the matcha, in the drink properly, and so it was just kind of sitting on top with this dusting of matcha. Ugh, not good, don't do that. That makes it clumpy and not nice. But apparently other people have had really good matcha there. Again, like, really good matcha for the UK standard, but again, the fact you can just get it at Greg's, crazy. And if you're not from the UK, Greg's is like the best bakery on the high streets, best chain bakery. It's so good. It's so good. We love Greg's.
Hey, can I get oh, what's the point?
And again, as a long-term fan, it's been genuinely really, really nice to see these things become more widely available and knowing that I no longer have to sell my firstborn in order to buy them. And this newfound interest in this kind of media and cuisine and culture has meant that a lot more of it has become destigmatized and enjoying it has become destigmatized. However, the caveat is that many people from all walks of life, weebs to families of 5, now want to make the 14-hour plus flight to visit Japan. And to be fair, who can blame them? The idea of immersing yourself in another culture and getting to experience things that you've long admired or enjoyed firsthand is something that I think all of us can relate to in some degree, even if it's not specifically about Japan. Hell, the first time I flew out to Japan, I was so full of excitement because I was finally able to visit my bucket list places like Takeshita Dori for the first time in my life. Like, as somebody who loves Harajuku fashion, being able to visit Harajuku was like a big thing for me. And so it's understandable that people who do enjoy the food, cuisine, culture, nature, fauna will feel very, very excited about getting to visit and see it in person. But equally, the internet does have a tendency to romanticize Japan a lot as well. Or I guess the better way to put it would be romanticize the palatable and marketable parts of Japan. One trend that really highlighted this bias and kind of issue when it came to how people see Japan was people sharing images of their local neighborhood looking maybe a little bit run down, maybe just being very ordinary looking, like a normal street in a normal town. And then they would have a comparison image where they would Photoshop a cherry blossom tree or some Japanese signage or even a temple or a torii gate in the background and then label it as being a place in Japan. And very quickly people were like, oh my God, like, for some reason, as soon as you whack that slightly brightened filter on it, add a tree and a piece of signage, I feel way more positively about that place than knowing it was originally in Romania or knowing that it was in like the back streets of Kent. Basically, the idea of place versus place in Japan Japan being almost always a result of people just glazing Japan for just being Japan, a romanticized idea sold to them through anime and social media.
I'm sure you've seen the Japan effect trend where people take pictures, usually of unromantic places, and tell you to imagine the same place but if it was in Japan. The whole point of it is to satirize how people are more likely to find something beautiful, clean, and ideal if it's in Japan. And what really worries me is that some people are completely missing the point of the trend and saying, wow, everything really does look better when it's in Japan. And it makes me sad, because if you thought this trend was really about beautiful places, it could actually be a great chance to reflect on your internal biases, stereotypes, the narratives that shape your perception, and even racism. When all the media you consume about a place only romanticizes it and idealizes it, you're gonna see everything through this lens, and vice versa.
And hell, even the way that other Asian countries get treated in comparison to Japan is so much more different. For example, China is often seen as this dystopian, wasteful, desolate, depressing place, often villainized with jokes about eating cats or dogs or eating disgusting foods. Meanwhile, similar use of neon lights, fast fashion, and the treatment of animals is almost always seen with more whimsy and forgiveness when it comes to Japan.
Oh, Japan is so much better than China. Neon lights in China? Ew, wasting so much electricity and so much light pollution.
Down with China.
But look at these neon lights in Japan though. It's so beautiful, I think I'll cry if I walk through that. Japan's living in 2049. Look at all these buildings in China. This isn't futuristic, okay? It's dystopian. Imagine all the commercials that would pop up. This is Chinese propaganda. Look at Japan's advertisements though. Jesus Christ, this is too amazing. Unreal. Only in Japan.
So is it really any surprise that we're starting to see more signage pop up around busy areas such as Tokyo with anti-tourist messaging? Signs in Harajuku stating things like, tourists who are not interested in fashion are not welcome. Go home, go to hell. Or even just more places like izakayas and eateries now having signage saying that they're no longer able or wanting to cater to people who are non-Japanese speaking. With some people allegedly saying that they also just have an initial bias to anyone who is not Japanese entering, assuming that they can't speak the language. So today we're going to be exploring why Japan might be experiencing a level of tourism fatigue and anti-tourism rhetoric, and also the realities of what tourism looks like in Japan compared to everywhere else in the world, because spoiler alert, everywhere has issues with tourists, and it's not just a Japan issue. But for the sake of this video, we're going to be talking about Japan, but we will be highlighting other issues with tourism, so don't worry, we're going to cover that too. And also, as a very quick but important disclaimer, if you couldn't tell, I'm not Japanese. I am white, and so I am coming at this from an outsider's perspective, somebody who does not live in Japan, somebody who does not have the experience of a Japanese local, a Japanese citizen. My experiences as a tourist are not emblematic of that as a citizen. With a topic like this, there are a lot of perspectives to consider and a lot of nuances to consider. At the end of the day, I can't attest to how it feels to live in a busy tourist area like Tokyo or Osaka or Kyoto, which obviously is a very traditional part of Japan, but has again become awash with tourism. I can't give that personal perspective. There are creators out there who do make English speaking content about this. I love Abroad in Japan, I love CDogVA, both of whom have kind of tackled this a little bit. So if you want to know more from that perspective, definitely check them out after this video. But again, I'm coming at this from an outsider's perspective as a consistent tourist. And also finally, Japanese people are not a monolith. You will have people who have one opinion and people who have another. Some Japanese people are very welcoming, very warm towards tourism, and other people are more tired with it. Other people are more xenophobic with it. There's going to be a lot of different takes. There's not one definitive answer. And as always, if I do make any kind of factual error, if I do make any mistake, please feel free to politely correct me down below. I'm always open to fair criticism and fair constructive feedback, so feel free to leave any sources or recommendations below as well. Now, I'm not gonna lie, as somebody who spends a lot of time writing scripts on pop culture, I really enjoy the creative process of coming together to build a video, not just filming it, but actually all the work that goes behind the scenes too. And despite my obsession with visual media as an ex-film student, I do fancy myself somewhat of a writer, even in a just more journalistic sense rather than a novelist sense. Creating characters, building a believable world, and also making a coherent timeline of plot beats and story progression is honestly an ADHD hellscape. It's a case of so many ideas and such little time. But thanks to today's video sponsor, World Anvil, it really is easier than ever to organize my thoughts and just enjoy the process of creative creative writing. So World Anvil starts you off by tailoring your account and content to your goals. Whether that be trying to create a new custom story for your tabletop night, or even just your ambitions of world building and story creating for a book or graphic novel. Its UI is so easy to use, and it walks you through every single step of the way. If you fancy yourself an author, you'll be met with a homepage that even has writing prompts to try and inspire you, other people's work to explore, and just countless tools to help you start creating your own world. You have features like family trees, timelines, and even the ability to grow a fan base and community by publishing updates about your world to other users. Even having the ability to monetize it to your fans and followers, meaning that you're one step closer to the goal of publication. Navigating through this page as a first timer was a lot less intimidating than trying to make sure that you're getting the correct train on the UK train schedule. And the webpage is faster too, by the way. There are countless clear video tutorials, help pages, and even widgets such as name generators to get you started. It's so clear that World Anvil is a world builder by world builders for world builders. And its active community is also constantly contributing to the website too, keeping things fresh and keeping things alive. From the moment you make an account, it offers you so much just for free, just as a baseline for opening your account. And the owners are constantly running events and themes such as the upcoming summer camp one for June and July. And so if you love human-made fantasy and passion, click the link down below and use my code ADDY for a 51% discount off of any yearly subscription, making it the perfect gift for yourself or the geeky creative in your life. So firstly, I think it's important to establish that Western tourism is not the biggest market when it comes to Japan. According to the official Japanese tourism statistics, the vast majority of tourism actually comes from other Asian countries such as South Korea, Taiwan, and China. As of January 2026, America only makes up 5.8%, the UK is 0.8%, and many EU countries are less than 1% each. Meanwhile, Korea was 32.7%, China was 10.7%, which is actually down around 15.2% compared to last year's tourism statistics, and Taiwan is 19.3%. So why is it that myself, and I'm sure many others, probably assumed that the Western statistics would be so much higher? Well, partially this is because if you're an English speaker, and usually just a native English speaker, you'll normally only get pushed content in your native language, which will restrict the amount of content that you're shown, meaning that most of the perspectives that you're going to be shown are going to be a lot more one-sided or biased. From what I could gather from some of the comments under the topics we're going to be looking at, there definitely is a tension between Japanese citizens and other Asian nationalities that are coming over and visiting Japan. But I also think this idea that has been perpetuated of European and Western travelers behaving badly has to do with how open we are with our behavior on social media, constantly filming and publicizing how we conduct ourselves online. I've seen in numerous videos where Western people or those from non-Asian countries take it upon themselves to speedrun being an asshole to the locals or being a nuisance when it comes to the amenities and the local area. I'm sure most of us have now seen this video that comes from Kyoto of that white kind of middle-aged woman chasing down a geisha with her iPhone held up, all in order to just photograph and film her, I'm assuming, but getting real close and essentially just hunting her down whilst this geisha is very clearly trying to avoid all of this interaction, forgetting that geisha are not these photo or video opportunities and props, but instead working women in Kyoto who are just trying to get from A to B. Geishas are very highly respected. It is a very highly regarded job. It's a very highly regarded title. And again, it just feels really weird to kind of pedal them back to just being this cool little background prop for your iPhone video that you're just going to share with your family and friends. And again, it's incredibly rude behavior, and it's evident how uncomfortable that geisha felt just by her body language and her active attempt to move away from this woman. And of course, because of behavior like this and also the increased harassment and sexual harassment of the geishas, Kyoto as of 2024 restricted tourist access to the geisha district of Gion, which is a very good thing for the locals and the women who work in this area, but also means that those who are visiting who can conduct themselves like normal, respectful adults now have to miss out on what is a beautiful and interesting part of Japanese history, architecture, and culture, all because other people can't behave themselves. Low-key, it kind of feels like when the class clown in school takes things too far. Like, they're funny for a minute, maybe, you know, depending on how you're feeling that day. Maybe they're funny for a moment, but they keep pushing the joke, they keep pushing the behavior, maybe getting one or two other people in the class involved. And because they're acting up, the teacher says, hey, stop that. Otherwise, everyone in the class is going to be in lunch. Like, everybody's going to be having like lunch detention, and they keep doing it. And so in order to punish everyone, to deter the behavior, they end up giving everyone lunch detention because of 3 people acting badly. And then everybody feels pissed off and everybody loses their lunch access. Like, it kind of feels like that. It's that same thing of, it's a good deterrent, it's a good way of kind of fixing the problem, but it comes at the cost of other people who I'm sure can conduct themselves like normal, decent people.
Japan is not your theme park. Hometown is being ruined by the tourist who doesn't respect our culture. Could be destroyed. People trash, people even in locals' garden. So be clear, be firm. Japan is not your theme park.
The same can be said for this now infamous creator who decided to get on a busy Japanese public transport train line and blast the Ice Cream Love Live song out of a boombox speaker for the amusement, or supposed amusement, of people on the internet. And to be very, very clear, because I cannot say this clearly enough, this kind of shit is really annoying no matter what country you are from or in. For whatever reason, people in the UK do this a lot. Like, you can go down a local high street and there'll just be some douchebag wheeling along a speaker going like this, like that, like he's doing something, and it f***s you off heavy. It's a rare day that you'll see British people catch a vibe and a little bit of motion if somebody's bringing a boombox speaker on the escalators in the underground. Nobody thinks you're cool when you do this, by the way. Everybody just kind of thinks you're a to be honest. And so if this behaviour is antisocial and annoying on your home turf, it's even more considerate to bring it to a different country for clicks and clout. Japanese trains are considerably more quiet compared to American subways or the British underground. Sure, you definitely do still have issues when it comes to overcrowding during busy work times, and of course issues with inappropriate conduct towards women, groping and pestering women. That does very much still happen. But on the average day, the train carriage will be pretty much silent with the exception of the humming of the train. Like, I can only imagine the flashbacks Japanese people must have at this point if they're living in areas like Tokyo or Osaka, where they see a white person, a British person, an American getting onto their tube carriage with a boombox, or even with a mate with their iPhone out like this. Like, I can just imagine that 1,000-yard stare image must be like going through their head, because they just know some is about to go down. Or what about these swarms of tourists who for whatever reason collectively decided that one of the most famous torii gates in Japan was the equivalent of your local heroin needle filled fountain that you can find in the park, stuffing coins from all over the globe into the lower levels of the wood, damaging the structure permanently, putting that structure at risk, and damaging what is a World Heritage Site, all to gain a bit of luck in a way that doesn't even make sense. Like, that's not how that works with a torii gate. That's not how torii gates work. You can just go to a shrine, and many shrines have offerings that you can do. So you can put your coins in and do an offering, and your little bell and everything. Like, there's ways of doing offerings to temples, which can then potentially maybe bestow upon you luck or good fortune or good health. Like, there's shrines for that. Like, they are religious and cultural sites. Going to a gate that's pretty and just shoving pennies in it for good luck seems insane. Like, I don't even know why that's a thing. I wouldn't assume to do that here with like a church, just stuffing pennies into the brickwork, or stuffing pennies into, like, I don't know, like the stained glass. Like, it doesn't make any sense, you know what I mean? Like, it's such a weird thing to just assume that you would do that, but because it's become a habit, it's become a problem. And even beloved Harajuku is sick of it too. Once being one of the most well-known, creative and colourful districts of Tokyo, Takeshita-dori has now drastically become more tourist focused. And sure, there is still a lot of J fashion and kawaii fashion stores and sellers there. You will still find some fantastic shops to visit. I'm not by any means saying that some of the more popular stores are only there for tourism. That would be an insane take, but there's definitely more tourist focused stores than there were before. And the thing is, even just trying to visit Takeshita-dori and navigate around it is really difficult, because it is flooded with people a lot of the time. If you go on a weekend, actually don't go on a weekend. Top tip, don't go on a weekend. I love Takeshita-dori, I love Harajuku, I love the back streets actually a lot more. Like, Takeshita-dori is fun, but like going around the back streets is a lot better. You'll find better stuff typically. And honestly, trying to navigate that when it's busy is hell. It is impossible to queue up properly, it's impossible to safely navigate, you're more at risk of being pickpocketed, because that does still happen in Japan. That can still happen if you're not careful, even if it is by other foreigners. Doesn't matter, it can still happen because you're all crammed and close together. Don't let your guard down just because you're on holiday. It's so busy. On a weekday it's better, but But again, you'll still have tons of tourists. I'm part of the problem when I visit. I am another tourist there. So saying that, I know the irony. But it's so busy, and people don't know how to conduct themselves on Takeshita-dori either. Like the amount of people who just stand there going like this in the middle of a busy walkway, a busy like street with a flow of people, hell. Oh my God, learn to city walk, guys. What are we doing? If you want to like have a yap, pull to the side. Just pull to the side. Don't stand in doorways, opening your gacha, leave the shop, or go back into the gacha shop, open it, and then get rid of your gacha. Like there's common sense just seems to leave people's brain when they go down Takeshita-dori, and I don't get why. And also just the heartbreak I felt when a Shein store also opened up in the Harajuku area as well, a giant Shein store. Again, am I saying that only tourists enjoy Shein? God, no. Japan very much loves its fast fashion, very much indulges in its fast fashion, but having it in Harajuku especially felt like a real travesty when you think about the history of the place. Like the amount of art theft that Shein and Romy have committed to J-fashion brands like AC/DC Rag, independent ones like Cybergirl, it's crazy, it's disgusting. Myself as a fellow foreigner and obvious tourist have even had issues with other tourists, primarily when me and my friends are wearing J-fashion outfits, wearing cute outfits, and we're in Harajuku walking down Takeshita-dori, walking around some of the back streets. On a good few occasions, there have just been random white men in their 40s and 50s with a DSLR suddenly clock us, just bring up his camera, not a word said, not a smile given, or like a gesture to be like, hey, is this okay? Can I take a picture? No, just lifts up the DSLR to his face to immediately take a picture of us. No words said. At points, even getting really close and kind of shoving it in our face. This has happened multiple times. Again, I don't get it. It's this fascination of trying to find Harajuku girls and like Decora people and like obviously like Lolita people or J-fashion people. Like they want to find it and take pictures to put on like stock websites maybe, I don't know. But that happens quite a lot too. Be wary. Addie's big tip of the day, this applies to any country mind you, is that if people are pulling up a camera to take a picture of you without saying anything or doing anything, cover your face and flip them off. That's what I would suggest. Cover your face and flip them off. Every damn time, ruin their photos. Make those photos unusable, unsellable, make it really obvious how weird the situation is in that photo. And they usually back off. Like, flipping somebody off is a universal language. They will get it. Personally, I'm not entirely surprised that signage has gone up in Harajuku, essentially stating that if you don't like or respect the fashion, to get bent. Myself as a regular tourist and many of my friends who live out in Japan, have lived there for many years, have all seen the way that tourists kind of treat Harajuku and certain stores within Harajuku like a zoo exhibit. They'll treat the staff like zoo animals, asking them to pose for photos, trying to sneak photos of them or film them, which again, you're not really meant to do anyway, like it's rude to do. But especially in a lot of Japanese stores, they actively don't want you taking photos or videos, mostly because of the fact that staff are working there and people are shopping. They just don't want anyone being caught on camera who doesn't need to be. Also, ignoring signage that very clearly states photos okay but no filming, or filming and photos are okay. Like, again, it's worth checking before you pull your phone out what you can and can't do in certain stores. And if in doubt, you can just like point to your phone, point to a camera and just be like, is this okay? Like, is camera and video okay? And they will tell you. And you can even Google Translate and just say, hey, I just want to film the clothing. I just want to film this. Can I take a picture of this? I won't get people in the video. Again, they just ignore all the signage that clearly states, don't do this, do this. They just ignore it. And also just not treating the items of clothing with any respect. Like in Japan, when you're trying on clothing, you're meant to put on a face covering that they provide for you. It's like a little kind of cloth covering, and it stops makeup transferring onto the clothes whilst you're putting a top on or a cardigan, basically to keep the product in good condition so that you don't get charged for it, essentially. And again, loads of people just don't use it. They just kind of ignore it. They're like, oh, I don't need to. No, you do. Like, it's there for, just do it. It's also useful. Like, I think it's actually a really good way of doing it. I think we should use that in the UK more, especially because in the UK we sell stuff off the rack, as in if it's on display it's for sale, whilst a lot of the time in Japan, if it's on a rack, it's a display item to try on, and a lot of their stock is actually packaged brand new in a bag, in a separate kind of cellophane bag, which you will check over when you purchase and then will be brand new. So again, it makes more sense to have that system in other countries especially if you're buying stuff off the rack. And of course, even just when it comes to buying items as well, like I'm waffling on about the clothing aspect, but this is something I do see people misbehaving with a lot. But like, you can't do refunds typically in Japan. Like, clothing refunds aren't as common. Usually when you buy something in Japan, you pick something off the rack, you try it on, or you look at it, you say, hey, I want to get this. The staff member then checks what item you're looking at. They might either take it to the back to basically match it up, or they'll just keep a visual note depending on how many items you're buying. And then they will bring out the item, usually in cellophane packaging, clear cellophane. They'll open that cellophane very carefully. They'll pull it out. They'll show you the item to ensure that you're happy with the quality, that you're happy with the item you're buying. So there's no loose buttons, no loose threads, there's no damage to it. You confirm that, then they put it back in the cellophane and they bag it up. And that way you are avoiding a lot of the risk when it comes to refunds and returns, because you've basically signed away, yeah, I'm happy to buy it. Like, I've seen the product, I've tried it on, I'm happy with it. And as we've learnt from Kelly Eden, who bought a Lolita dress, misunderstanding the price of it, which does happen, again, just be very careful when looking at your yen conversions. But obviously when she bought that dress, very infamously many years ago, she tried to get a return, and it was very, very difficult because, again, returns are just not standard with a lot of Japanese brands, especially Harajuku fashion brands. And so having tourists come back with the same mindset of, I'm entitled to a return, I'm entitled to a refund, actually I want to save more money on my holiday and I want to return it, isn't good enough. They won't give you one. But I've seen people kick off. It was in the Noemi discount store in Ikebukuro. I was watching as one woman kind of semi-kicked off, being like, I want to return it. Like, I don't want this. I want a discount. Like, it was crazy. And it was just a bit like, just don't do it. You just don't need to do that. The fact that the sign in Harajuku is specifically in both English and I believe Mandarin seems to implicate that those are the kind of two people that they have the biggest issue with when it comes to tourists misbehaving or not respecting the fashion and the product in that area. People who aren't necessarily there to shop, but more so to gawk and kind of just like linger around. And the sad thing is, social media often rewards this behavior too. I can't count the amount of Japan influencers or even AI slop videos that make up these insane, innocuous rules or try to fearmonger a certain way of conducting yourself. Like, a lot of these are just very clickbaity and misguided, sometimes not maliciously and other times for engagement. And there is an oversaturation of it. There are so many people making this content, and again, a lot of the time it's the same thing regurgitated over and over, oftentimes quite incorrectly. You can't walk and eat in Japan. Don't drink unless you're standing still and pulled to the side. Don't wear short skirts or have your shoulders out. A lot of Western and European creators seem to think that these things are essential to visiting Japan and are essentially like common law. And I often get comments on my own videos when I've talked about being in Japan, or I've debunked some of these, really anxious about their upcoming trip, wondering how they can be the most respectful visitor that they can be. But in reality, from my personal experience, and again, watching content from people who live there and talking to my friends who do live there, have lived there for many number of years, most of the etiquette that you need to follow is just common sense. You can walk and eat and drink. That's fine. You just need to be thoughtful as to where you're eating and drinking. Are you walking and eating and drinking during a busy crossing? Are you too close to people and you're at risk of spilling food on them, or possibly getting bumped into and then having your food wiping across their clothes? Is that a risk? Is your food stinky and you're in an enclosed space, or you're in somewhere that people can't necessarily get away from the smell? Like, if you're eating a strong smelling food, are you being considerate about to who's around you? As long as you're not like at risk of bumping into people and you're not being silly with how you're walking or where you're walking, you're usually fine. A lot of the time, the idea of stopping, standing to the side to eat and drink is actually more for your convenience, especially if you've just come out of a konbini. It makes more sense to eat those snacks whilst you're outside the konbini if you're gonna eat them now, because you can get rid of them in the bin. As soon as you set off walking, if you're eating and drinking, that trash will need to be carried with you, potentially all day or until you find another bin. And as you probably heard from many creators, finding a bin in Japan is more difficult than most other places. You will not just find one on a street corner. A lot of the time you need to find a konbini, you need to find possibly a vending machine in order to find a place to get rid of your packaging. And of course, if you're on a train, don't eat or drink anything that's gonna spill or be stinky or be a mess. Most of the time it is just safer to have a bottle of water to sip on the train, maybe a couple like hard-boiled sweets at most, because that's not gonna really inconvenience anyone or cause any distress. Again, if you spill water on somebody, not ideal still, but it's water. There's a big difference between spilling water on somebody or a coffee or, you know, grape Fanta or Coca-Cola or Monster. Like, there's a big difference. Like, it's just being thoughtful again as to how busy the train is, how you're traveling. Are you going to hold on to your trash? Are you going to make a mess? Like, It's just common sense. Like, if you're not going to eat a KFC bargain bucket on the local bus route home, don't do that in Japan. And sure, Japan is a more conservative country. The average person is not decked out in teeny beady booty shorts and crop tops. Most people's day-to-day clothing is more full coverage, partially because of professionalism, but also just because that is more standard for the average Japanese person. And of course, just like in any other part of the world, it's being mindful about what you're wearing and where or when you're wearing it. Like, you probably wouldn't wear a bikini to a funeral. It's that kind of vibe. Like, it's just about picking a time and place. Like, it's just about being thoughtful. But you are allowed to show some chest, some shoulders, some legs. If it's hot in the summer, nobody's expecting you to nun up to go in the JR line. That's not realistic and it's not safe. Like, having some of your body out, as long as you're not breaking public decency laws, is not seen as evil or particularly disrespectful to the average person in most public non-religious spaces. And again, a lot of this just comes down to basic common sense, basic rational thinking. It's styles like jiraikei, ryozongata, and gyaru, all of which can have quite short skirts, all of which can be a little bit more like sexy and flirtatious at times, more so gyaru for that. It goes to show that Japan isn't like this opposing evil force that if you have your shoulders out, they're going to be really, really angry. Like, that's just, again, that's not really a thing. The idea of not being able to wear tank tops is quite old generation from what I've gathered. Like, maybe your grandparents' kind of age generation, maybe your parents if you've got older parents. Not the average person again. That's like an older mindset. And another one I kind of want to just like tackle a bit as well is that you've heard Japan, Tokyo, city areas are super safe at night. And generally speaking, as somebody who comes from the UK and I have lived in some dives, generally speaking, I would agree. Generally, I would say I have felt safer in Japan at night at 3 a.m. than I have in the UK during the day. But I also think it's important to reaffirm that Japan is not this completely safe place, nor is it entirely crime-free. But I also think it's really important to reaffirm that Japan is not completely safe. There is still an issue with people groping, upskirting. There's a reason why cameras and phones in Japan have to have the flash noise on permanently. Because of upskirting issues. There is signage in Akihabara station and many other stations about being careful with upskirting. There's a reason why many skirts for women sold in Japan have built-in safety shorts. And you can also still get antisocial behaviour and harassment. If you go into areas like Shibuya or Shinjuku at night, you will see a lot of people who are heavily drinking, being loud, being quite physical with each other, kind of just like flopping around. You will see levels of substance use. Like, that, again, isn't some sort of rare thing. That does happen. People go out drinking. I myself have personally experienced low levels of sexual harassment, so leering, propositioning, and being followed. But one of my friends who lives out there, who is very, very good looking, very, very good looking girl, very much the Japanese beauty standard. She's married out there. She's very petite, very fashionable. Very good looking, lovely person. But even when we were hanging out and we'd come away from team labs and me and my friend who I was traveling with were going one way and she was going back home another way, within 10 minutes of her catching the train, she was on the phone to us terrified because an older man, quite significantly older man, was pestering her and bothering her. And another Japanese person had to step in because his behavior was getting so inappropriate. But God forbid you ever mention this, because the place in Japan people will come out of the woodwork trying to find any excuse to blame you for being harassed, upskirted, groped. They will find any excuse. I got told my outfit was inappropriate, that it was too short, too revealing. Insane take. That rhetoric doesn't fly anywhere in the world. I don't care. That's not how we treat things. This, you know, like normalizing that behavior as a result of what somebody's wearing or what you perceive to be inappropriate behavior, or them drinking, being like, there's no excuse. If you try and excuse that, you're part of the problem. And people need to stay away from you, to be honest. I think it is very, very easy to get swept away with this idea of being one of the good ones when it comes to being a tourist. I do genuinely believe everybody comes back from Japan a little bit more irritating, obviously trying to be a good tourist, a good visitor, imbued with loads of new cultural and social knowledge. They'll use Japanese words for like a week until they realize it's a little embarrassing. They will do all the things they're doing in Japan. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm used to standing on this side of the escalator in Tokyo. Like that does happen. That's like a real thing that's like everybody goes through that. You're insufferable for like a week or two. It's a canon event. I'm insufferable for the rest of my life, apparently. A lot of it just comes from wanting to be accepted by the locals and wanting to assimilate as respectfully as possible. My friends and I have absolutely found ourselves side-eyeing the loud Americans further down the carriage. Meanwhile, we are regularly victims of the gajin seat. You are not the exception to the rule. you are not considered an honorary citizen. I think wanting to be respectful is a really good and important thing. Going in with good intentions is almost always better than going in with ignorance. Being mindful of the space that you take up, the volume control that you're emitting whilst you're in public spaces, and just keeping up with the area's walking pace are things that will not only improve your experience of visiting Japan, but will also make life a lot nicer for the people around you. A little bit of conversational Japanese can go a long way to making your trip a lot better. If you can tell a taxi driver very clear and concisely where you want to go, say hello, be polite, say thank you, you know, that's fantastic. It's much better if you can meet them in the middle than expecting a cab driver or a shop worker to do all the work of talking to you, you know? Like, that's a little bit ignorant. No one comes here expecting us to speak Spanish in the UK, no one comes here expecting us to speak French. We have to kind of meet them in the middle a little bit. And I feel like that should be the way that we at least try and tackle Japan if we are not dedicated to learning Japanese as a full language. At the very least, learn some conversational Japanese so that way your taxi driver isn't sitting there getting exasperated trying to communicate with you. If you can meet them in the middle, come a little bit closer to them and able to communicate, it makes their lives so much easier and it makes it such a more positive experience, you know? And also just being able to talk to people in another language is very rewarding. It's actually really, really cool. And so again, it's always appreciated. Just a little bit of conversational Japanese goes a long, long way. But again, make no mistake, you will not be treated like a local. You can be as polite and as courteous as possible, but you may still just encounter frustrated stares or interactions. One thing that's on the rise is Japan's bumping man, known as butsukari otoko. And there's also the female equivalent, which is now known as butsukari onna, which means bumping woman. This is an antisocial and at times violent behavior where somebody, usually a Japanese local, will shoulder barge or ram you as you're in a busy train station or at a busy crossing or just walking around. Sometimes this can pass as an accident, it can just feel like a rough shoulder barge, and other times they may fully knock you over, they may fully wipe you out and then disappear into the crowd. Because a lot of the time this does happen when it's busier and they can just kind of disappear quite quickly. The biggest victims of butsukari otoko or even butsukari onna are Japanese people themselves. Butsukari otoko, so bumping man, has been linked to issues when it comes to misogyny, so sexual and romantic frustrations, and at times work-life frustrations too. So taking out their anger and their internalized dissatisfaction with love or or themselves and taking that out on the women or children around them. Japanese women and children have been on the receiving end of this for a good long while. A comment under one of my TikTok videos about this particular subject actually stated, "Today in the tunnel at Yokohama station, a man collided with a pregnant woman. She almost lost her baby. We called the police and an ambulance. She had a medical check and thankfully she is okay now. The police are checking the security cameras to find the man." So again, to re-specify, this is not a specifically tourist issue. The main victims of this are other Japanese people, mostly Japanese women and children who are being targeted. However, with the general rise of anti-tourism rhetoric and Japanese nationalism and xenophobia, there have been more and more videos of foreigners online also experiencing this behavior when visiting Japan. And again, most of the time it is a woman experiencing this. Most of the time they're not going to target some 6'4" rugby player build. They're going to go for like a woman usually because they're easier to target and disappear. And especially if you're going for a foreign as well, reporting it as a foreigner is quite difficult because of language barrier if you don't know Japanese, but also again trying to get authorities to take it seriously can be a bit of a challenge, especially if you don't know who did it because they disappear so quickly. Women and children who are maybe on holiday or have moved there are now being assaulted by both Japanese men and women. It's easy to imagine that possibly this rise in tourism and by proxy antisocial behavior from outsiders could lead to a level of frustration amongst locals that they are now physically enacting towards people that they deem as being outsiders. Japan has always been a pretty homogenous country, and so I imagine as a local it can be quite easy to see maybe a decline of quality of life, an increase in prices, and a decline in the food quality as being a result of more and more foreigners entering the country and changing the demands of the area as opposed to what the locals need. Like as a comparison, queuing in the UK is like a very sacred thing. We queue for everything. You could stand in the middle of nowhere and somehow form a queue. If you stood literally by a shop, even if you have no interest in going in, you could stand outside of a shop like this and people will queue behind you, assuming that there's something going on and they will just queue. That's a thing that happens in the UK. It's very, very common. Queuing in the UK is pretty sacred. But obviously there are instances where people will try and skip queues. If you're getting on a busy bus or public transport, queuing kind of goes out the window a little bit. But if you are somebody who's pushing in or trying to ram your way in, especially if you are seen as an outsider, whether that be because of racism or because maybe you are just very obviously a tourist, if you try and queue skip, you will get quite roughly barged back in place. So I guess I can imagine there is a similar frustration when it comes to Japanese people having to deal with tourists who are maybe just not very good at picking up the requirements of the area that they're visiting. However, I'm going to state very, very clearly, because it should be obvious, but apparently it's not, bumping people, physically assaulting people, pushing down children, pushing women, barging people, Japanese or foreign, is not okay. I don't care what frustration or misery you've got in your life, physically assaulting strangers in the street is not an okay thing to do. You can't go around doing that. What are we doing? Don't do that. Don't be doing that. Going out of your way to cause harm says everything about you and nothing about the issues that you're experiencing. It takes away the conversation from maybe some of the valid frustrations and instead turns it into you're literally physically going around hurting people. You can't be doing that. It's not okay. It's just it's rotten to do. And shit, this trend of covertly trying to assault women and kids has actually spread to the UK as well, with videos of this now happening, emerging in London and being talked about online, as well as a post on Reddit a couple of days ago as of the time of writing the script on r/Manchester, where somebody believes that they were a victim of a man essentially doing the whole butskari otoko behaviour. I think it is important to remember that not all Japanese people that you're going to encounter are as passive or as polite as social media and novels and anime may have you believe. There is a growing frustration and xenophobic mindset emerging, and this is only going to serve stoking the flames of the frustration already felt towards tourism and outsiders or foreigners. You could do everything right and still encounter somebody who, for whatever reason, just takes a dislike to you that day. And I also think it's important to highlight right now that issues with travelers, issues with people visiting your country is not exclusive to Japan. My God, it's not exclusive to Japan. England, France, Spain, Italy, everywhere has issues with tourists. People who are already loud, ignorant, and thoughtless in their own country will find a way of making sure that they do that behavior when traveling elsewhere. For example, I saw this video pop up on my For You page on Instagram of a woman sitting in the middle of the shambles in York. York is a place in England. And she's sitting in the middle of these shambles. And if you're not familiar with the shambles, these are a very historic part of York. They're a very beautiful old part of York. The infrastructure of the shambles is not the best because it is very old. So it's very cobbly, it's very uneven, meaning that if you've got mobility issues, a pushchair, a wheelchair, you might struggle going down the shambles. And so for whatever reason, this woman, in order to promote her wellness course, her wellness program, her wellness page, decided to film herself sitting in the middle of one of the busy shamble streets, which are also quite narrow, because again, they were built a very, very long time ago. They're older than America, if I remember correctly. Fact check that, but I'm almost certain they are. She sits in the middle of these walkways in the area that most people use for pushchairs, wheelchairs, sits in the middle and films herself as people are essentially looking at her and having to filter around her with the message of like taking space for yourself. Very, very ignorant behavior, like really, really bad. It's really unappreciated. And again, doing that to make a spectacle of yourself, to promote your business is really shitty. I don't care if you're British or not. That's a really shitty thing to do. You should know better. But again, that kind of behavior, which we have seen in Japan, does happen everywhere else as well. It's just not as publicized because again, place Japan. You know what I mean? Like Japan isn't the exception to the rule of tourists at best being ploddy and a bit ignorant and at worst being actively harmful. However, I do now want to reiterate how personally welcoming I have found Japan to be and how wonderful of a place it has been to visit on multiple occasions. Sure, I have had issues with leering and people trying to proposition me. That's not fun, did not enjoy that aspect, but I also get that at home. So goodbye France, hello Paris, again. However, I have had many more wonderful interactions. When I went to a hat shop in Koenji with one of my friends called Candywood, me and my friend ended up just chatting to the people who own the store, run the store, and they were so, so lovely. They were so, so sweet. And they ended up taking pictures with us and we still got those pictures and they were so, so sweet. They still watch my stories, occasionally like my posts. Very, very sweet, lovely people. And again, they were so interested in why we were visiting, if we were there studying, what we do. Like it was very sweet and sincere and it was just so nice getting to chat to them. When my Armour Vivienne Westwood ring flew off my finger as I was kind of standing up on the tube to then get off at the station, it just came off because my hands got cold and so like it just flew off my hand and it went right under the seats in front of me. I was like, oh shit. I was actually mentally writing off that ring because I was like, I don't know if I can actually like justifiably like crawl under that seat without being a huge pain in the ass. But before I even finished that thought, a guy who saw it happen, in a suit mind you, got to his knees and immediately began scrambling under that seat. And he found my ring and he presented it to me. He was so good about it. Like it wasn't something that he felt an obligation to do. There was no huffing and puffing, stupid gajin. He was like, oh, I found it for you. Here you go. Have a lovely day. So sweet. Lovely man. He went out of his way to do that. He didn't have to. He did that to be kind. And that's a consistent thing I've noticed. A lot of people are just very, very kind. Like, it's a rare day that if you're looking lost in a train station, a friendly local won't come over to you and say, hey, do you need any help? Like, I've had that quite a few times where I've been looking at different stations, I've been checking my map, and somebody's turned around and they said, hey, I recommend going to this carriage, I recommend doing this because it's going to be quicker. And they just give like friendly little bit of information, they just go back to doing their thing. They don't feel any which way about it, they're just being polite and helpful. And it feels like being at home because I expect that behaviour when I'm at home. It's the right thing to do, it's a nice thing to do. And of course, if you do go to a local supermarket, which honestly I recommend, because konbini food does get tiring and quite salty and can be a little bit disruptive to your gut if you're not cooking anything. You're going to have constipation if you ain't careful. But if you go to a local supermarket, quite often I found that older people will come over to you and they will want to talk to you, and they will actually help show you discounts. So they'll take you over to like the tomatoes and be like, these are more expensive, go for these ones, and they'll show you the best prices for the items that you're buying. And because they see you engaging in a supermarket rather than a konbini, and you're obviously shopping to cook, they get curious, like, oh, what are you cooking? And they try and give you advice. And again, that's so cute and charming, and quite often you will see that. I've had so many more positive experiences with Japanese people in Japan than I have had negative. And I always look forward to going back to Japan. Originally, it's because I love the fashion and the pop culture, and it's obviously an amazing place to go if you do love all of that. I think when you first go to Japan, you should do a lot of the touristy stuff because it gets it out of your system, and a lot of it is very fun to do, apart from those go-karts. I'm epileptic, so I can't drive, but don't do the go-karts because I find them annoying. I find those go-karts annoying. You look stupid going around in a onesie on a go-kart in a busy intersection. You just look like a knob. Sorry, I would find it irritating here in the UK too. I am not biased because it's Japan. I would find it irritating here too. It's like when people go around in mini motors, I'm like, just piss off. You're pissing me off. But like originally I would go because of the things that I was already familiar with when it came to Japan, but now I look forward to going back, and sure, I'm still going to go shopping. I'm still going to be trying on some cute clothes, but I look forward to just walking around the local area, taking in more of the flora and fauna, and having the ability to just take life at a slower pace and feel safe whilst doing so, which admittedly is a privilege that I get only because I'm a tourist, as opposed to a Japanese local who is having to adhere to what is very well known to be a pretty rigid and restrictive work-life culture. So again, getting to do that is a privilege of being a foreigner as opposed to being a Japanese local. Japan is not a perfect place by any stretch, and I think people who like to say it is, people who like to say Japan is living in 2060 are literally full of shit. Like, Japan uses fax machines, some of their websites be looking crusty. Like, Japan is not a perfect place. It still has issues. It still has issues with xenophobia and racism and the treatment of women and a bunch of other things. Like, there's so many issues, just like literally any other country in the world. Nowhere is perfect. But for all of the things you can fairly criticize Japan for, they do a lot of things well too. If you go to a busy area in Tokyo, if you go to Ginza, if you go to Shibuya even Shinjuku, a lot of the time, the streets are so shockingly clean. Like, they're not clean enough that you can put on white socks and walk around and they're not gonna get dirty. People who say that also lie. It's a city, be real. But like, it is very clean. You're not going to see litter everywhere. You will never see somebody just littering. You see that in the UK and it pisses me off. I usually go up to them and like pick that up. But in Japan, you won't see people doing that. That's just not a thing. People do carry around their trash. Again, half the reason about eating outside a konbini, eating to the side, is so you could properly pack away your stuff and not litter, and you have a place to bin it, as opposed to having to carry it around all day, because people will just give up and just leave it on the floor. Like, tourists won't necessarily want to carry it around all day. And so again, the streets are very, very clean. Like, consistently you will notice there is a lack of litter, a lack of dirt or beer or pee. The smell of pee isn't as common in your city as it is everywhere else in the world, apparently. Some areas do smell like pee still, but that's usually like your more kabukicho areas and like the back alleys of an evening. But generally, it smells nicer, feels cleaner, is cleaner. The cost of accessible food is considerably lower, generally speaking. You can get very, very cheap food, and the quality of food typically feels a lot better. It does feel fresher. You can see constant restocks happening in convenience, 7-Elevens, they restock constantly. Like there is always fresh food coming in. So again, you don't have a sandwich that's been sitting there for like 3 days on the shelf. Like that's just not really a thing. And of course, you also do see a lot of young people traveling on their own, completely safely going to school. I've seen like a 5-year-old in their little school uniform, in their little kindergarten outfit, traveling on their own on a train. Crazy work. You don't get that here, for good reason. But you also see a lot of elderly people walking, being active, being out in nature. Again, like the quality of life, or at least the way that people ensure their health, seems to be a lot better. Like it seems to be a lot more of a priority to live long and be healthy. Something which, for as much as I hate Jamie Oliver for ruining school meals, because I got forced to eat cauliflower cheese all the time as a vegetarian back in like the 2010s, pre-2010s, because I was vegetarian for ages, and it was literally just cauliflower cheese or just like steamed veg that was basically the vegetarian option as a school meal. As much as I hate Jamie Oliver for that, you know what? I think it's good that kids are eating healthier and there is a better emphasis on being healthy. There is an issue with diet culture in Japan. That is a problem. We're going to highlight that too as we say this. But again, being healthy and looking after your health is still very important to a lot of people there. It's considered something that you want. Living to be old is a positive. And so if you want to visit Japan, I personally like to believe that it welcomes you. But just like visiting any country, go in with a goal of being polite, being respectful, and being thoughtful to the people around you. Don't fall for these bogus rules and regulations. Instead, just focus on picking up basic phrasing that you can use to communicate with people and use your common sense. And also, very importantly, consider visiting areas outside of Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto. Consider going further afield to more rural areas, towns and places that people just don't advertise or talk about as often. Those are places that could really use tourism, could really use money coming in from people actively giving to local restaurants, mum and pop shops. Like, go to areas outside of the tourist places once you've got that out of your system. Consider visiting these areas and going out of your way. See seaside towns that nobody talks about. There are so many beautiful areas that could really benefit from people visiting and giving them visibility and putting money into that kind of little economy there. Don't just focus on going to Tokyo or Kyoto or Osaka if you have the time and ability to do so, because I do think you will discover so many more wonderful places as soon as you step outside of the big three. And a lot of the time they will be so much more welcoming for you visiting, because unlike all the people who are fatigued with tourism in Tokyo and having to deal with it every single day traveling home, a lot of these places don't see as many foreigners or tourists, and so there'll be a lot more curiosity and desire to converse, and there'll be a lot more appreciation for you going and visiting and everything else. Like, when Japan advertises Visit Japan, a lot of the time they're trying to now focus on rural areas and areas outside of the big three. So keep that in mind whenever you see adverts advertised in Japan, because if you actually look at it and read it, they are trying to advertise different prefectures and different areas. Go to Hokkaido, go to somewhere else maybe, myself included. I really want to go to some of the kind of like more northern areas that are colder, because I actually really love cold weather, so I'm quite excited to do that. But yeah, just consider going outside of the beaten path when you can. And most importantly, pack your sanitary products, your deodorant, and your civic decency. But I guess let me know down below, what do you think about all of these headlines saying that Japan hates tourists, that Tokyo hates tourists? Do you think that that is accurate? Are you Japanese watching this video, or someone who lives in Japan as an English speaker who has an opinion on this? Please do share it down below, because I really would like some opinions from people who live there, Japanese or not, people who have lived there, the changes they've noticed maybe. I would love to hear it, so please consider commenting down below. And also, what do you think of tourism as a general? What do you think you would recommend for somebody going to Japan for the first time? Like, what is a tip that you would give them to better experience Japan and enhance their experience of being a visitor? What would make their life easier? What would make everybody else's life easier? What should you pack? What not to pack? Again, leave it all down below. As always, I want to give a big thank you and smooches to my beautiful Patreon members, with our otaku tiers being on screen and our Oshi tier members being Nina Hopkins, Falky Gone Missing, Lucy, Shy Raw, Harakivo, Danny16, Sweet Misery, Meryl Lyram, The Galmar, X-Lace_Zale, Cielo Armonia, Neon Ferris Wheel, Florenciaga, Tiger, and Corey Kitty. If you decide to join me and my patrons over on Patreon, you will get behind the scenes access to exclusive content that has never been posted on YouTube, will not be posted on YouTube, Patreon exclusive content, whether this be panels from conventions, whether this be videos researching for videos, so me reacting to terrible AI trailers for an hour and a half, whether it be my most recent office tour where I talk through my entire figure collection and my thoughts on collecting and I show you my office. All of these things are available on Patreon for Otaku and Oshi tier members, as well as having your name on screen or spoken out at the end of my videos. Supporting me on Patreon really does help a lot. It allows me to be a little bit more choosy with what I cover and allows me to take more time when it comes to making videos as well. So doing that really does help and I really do appreciate it. I'm currently using a broken microphone. If you've seen my post on Instagram, you know that the LED display on my receiver broke. It's working for now. I don't know how long it will last for. So again, stuff like Patreon really does help when it comes to buying new equipment that I need. But as always, the cheapest and easiest way of supporting me and what I do is by commenting on the video, having a conversation with a stranger, sharing the video, saving the video, using the hype feature, which I believe is a new way of kind of generating more interest in the algorithm, and of course hitting the subscribe button and the bell icon beside it to never miss an upload. And now it is time to check out some of your amazing fan art and the end of the video outfit check. Bye! Hello, it is time for this video's outfit check. I'm not gonna lie, it's a fairly quick one and quite a humble one as well. A lot of the items I've got are thrifted, but let's go through them. So again, we've got this headband here from AC/DC Rag. You are familiar with it by now. I wear this a lot. It's only like 15 quid, but I personally really like this one. It's very comfy for a full day's wear. It just sits so well on your head. Really love this one. I've got this Vivienne Westwood safety pin necklace. I did try and wear some more necklaces, but to be honest with this outfit, it just layers really weirdly, so I just kind of capped it at this. So this black top here is actually secondhand. I got it on Vinted, but it originally is from New Look, I believe. And it's kind of like this frilly jumper-esque top. It's really cute. I've worn it quite a lot of times before. It's a favorite of mine. It's a really good underlayer for like cute cardigans or even some Jidai items. Really good as an underlayer, a good base layer. But I got it on Vinted for like a $5, I think. And it's one of my favorite tops. So, you know, it works really well. Love a Vinted find. And speaking of which, this cardigan as well, I actually believe is New Look too. And again, I got it for like 5 quid, 10 quid, secondhand on Vinted. And again, I think it makes quite a cute kind of just a little overlayer when it comes to some cute kind of like more girly Jidai outfits. And then the skirt right here, which you can kind of see, it's not really been visible for the video, but this is from Honey Pepper. I got sent this for free. I have done a full review of the brand and of their new collection, which is the Otome collection. But this is a skirt that they sent me. And again, I think for this outfit, it does look really cute. You can't really see it, as you can tell, but it is a very cute little skirt. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole outfit. It's very simple, very basic outfit, but it's warm, it's comfy, and it does the job. So you know what? I'm standing here filming in a room with nobody. You can hear the echo. Filmed in silence. But thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for watching the last video. If you haven't watched the last video on Kawaii Talk, which I think is the last one, then please go check that out. I have filmed everything in advance because I'm currently away traveling. I'm literally away right now. At the time you're seeing this, I'm gone. I've disappeared. So I have filmed everything in advance. So I will be trying to check in with comments and everything as I can. But hopefully you've enjoyed this video. And again, please leave some comments down below discussing this topic, discussing some hot tips, discussing some of your hot takes. And if you do live in Japan, please share some of your information and clarity as well. If you feel like I've got anything wrong or you want to add another perspective, because again, no one's a monolith. I think it's really cool to hear more opinions and thoughts. See you in the next video. Bye.